Hey everyone. I didn't think I'd be back making another one of these videos so soon, but the support on the last episode was so high that I figured coming back sooner rather than later was a good idea. For those of you who are new here, this is the third episode in the series where I take a look at some weird, creepy, and mysterious YouTube channels. Tonight, I'll once again be taking a look at 4 different channels, ranging from alternate reality games, analog horror series, weird art projects, unexplained mysteries, and anything in between. Now, there is something a little different this time. For the first time ever, I'll be taking a look at a user suggestion. Speaking of user suggestions, if you have any YouTube channels you'd like me to take a look at, please let me know in the comments. I read every comment, and I'm always looking for new spooky channels to talk about. Now, before we begin, I'd like to get 2 things out of the way. Last time I set a light goal for the series to continue, and you guys reached the goal in less than 24 hours. With that in mind, I'm going to set another like goal. So, if this video gets 250 likes, I'll continue this series. Secondly, please do not harass any channels I talk about in this video. I'm mostly going to be talking about art projects and ARGs tonight, so I don't really expect anyone to harass these channels, but I still do not condone any harassments in the way of these people. With all that said, if you end up enjoying this video, please do leave a like and subscribe, as it really helps me out. Thank you all so much for the support on this series so far. And now, without further ado, let's get into the first channel. A couple months ago, this video appeared in my recommended feed. Now, in case it wasn't obvious, this is a comedy video. One with some spooky theming, sure, but a comedy video nonetheless. DrSlappers is very much a channel that falls more under the weird category, and honestly, I'm only talking about him because I absolutely love his style. His videos remind me a lot of classic, weird YouTube animators like Pilot Red Sun, Andy Wilson 92, and Ben Wheel, though he also mixes in a lot of live action and 2000s internet aesthetics. Some of these videos are downright absurd, like The Evolution of Man, which is about this 3D model named Andy doing increasingly strange dances, while DrSlappers, real name Chris, tells him to add more, as he knows Andy can do better. Eventually, Chris is satisfied, as he believes he has bore witness to the evolution of man. Andy also appears in This Guy's the Worst, where Chris introduces his friends Andy, Andy, and Andy. However, the introduction is interrupted by Binky, a dancing yellow smiley face who Chris claims he didn't invite. Chris eventually tells Binky to leave, because he's the fucking worst, and Binky sadly walks away. I'm honestly not really sure what more to say about these videos, since they're really just weird little comedy videos. There's, of course, nothing wrong with that, but if you want a more spooky channel, you'll have to look elsewhere. Now, as I said a moment ago, I'm including DrSlappers just because I like his content. However, there's 2 videos that are a bit more substantial that I'd like to talk about, and it helps that they're a bit spookier. The first video is titled An Alternative to Crying, a video which is still somewhat comedic. The video opens with a horrific 3D model and text reading, "A Chat with Chris," followed by Chris telling the viewer about how he used to spend his time in the park, crying. However, he's found a new alternative to crying, which he calls Howard's World.
Would you like to know how to get to Howard's World? I'm so glad you asked.
Chris explains that to access Howard's World, all you have to do is use a tape player, put on some headphones, and listen to some industrial Tibetan techno music. Doing this transports Chris to Howard's World, where Chris introduces us to Howard, the terrifying godlike entity who governs this realm. Chris claims you can do anything here, as long as Howard gives you permission.
May I please dance, Howard?
Chris reluctantly agrees, and asks Howard a couple more times if he can do anything. Howard says no every time, and Chris eventually wakes back up. He's apparently spent almost 7 hours in Howard's world, and now he has to get going. Chris thanks us for visiting, says he loves us, and leaves. Now, this totally might be reading too much into things, but I think maybe this video is about depression. I could be wrong, and this might be nothing more than a weird comedy horror video, but think about it. The video is called An Alternative to Crying, and Chris makes it clear at the beginning that he used to cry a lot due to all the struggles in his life. Now, instead he goes to Howard's world, where Howard doesn't allow him to do anything. Depression, of course, manifests in many different ways, but a common one is not wanting to do anything. Howard may be a representation of the depressed thoughts of Chris, or maybe he's just Howard. I don't know. This is just how I interpreted the video, and I could be totally wrong here. The next video, however, has a much clearer meaning. OurGirlfriendMaria.com is the newest video on DrSlappers' channel, and it's easily his spookiest video. The video opens with an ad for the titular website, and Chris appears as he talks about how great Maria is. The ad's voiceover interrupts, saying that there's over 30,000 users on the website, a fact which appears to shock Chris. As the ad cuts out, we see footage of the websites. Chris tries to ask Maria if he's her only boyfriend, but she ignores the question. Chris asks once again, as Maria starts to glitch out, angry at Chris. Maria disappears, as Chris uses a phone on the website to call Maria, who doesn't answer. He's given a prompt to either give up or find her, to which he chooses the latter. The site changes to a point-and-click game, as Chris walks to Maria's house. Interestingly, the site URL here says OurGirlfriendMaria.com/mistake, which is continued with the next page, OurGirlfriendMaria.com/mistake/big-mistake. Here, Chris is greeted with a door, which Maria answers. Chris is given the option of flowers or a gun, and he chooses the gun. The video ends with a new window popping up, OurGirlfriendMaria.com/mistake/big-mistake/pathetic. I think this video is pretty clearly about toxic relationships, as both Chris and Maria exhibit toxic traits. Maria is unfaithful, and Chris is a violent murderer. Alright, maybe one of those is a bit more extreme than the other. Anyway, Our Girlfriend Maria is a great video, and I highly recommend checking it out, alongside DrSlappers' other videos. They're some of the strangest, most absurd comedy horror videos on YouTube, and I like them a lot. Hopefully, you do too. Alright, let's talk about some actual horror stuff now. Every so often, I'll stumble across videos talking about weird and creepy YouTube channels, and usually I'll watch them to find some stuff I'd otherwise not know about. I've already talked about a few channels I found this way, though, of course, I do talk about my thoughts on these channels. No point in talking about them if I'm just gonna regurgitate someone else's video. Anyway, the important part is that as soon as I saw this fucking thing, I shut off the video I was watching and went to check out the channel for myself. And what I found was a whole channel of videos just like the one I showed you. This is Pontiac Robotics Archive, an analog horror series which started about 1.5 years ago. Now, I'm not super well versed in analog horror. I'm not a huge fan of most series, as I find the majority of them to be quite tropey and boring. However, this is a very unique series, somewhat. I do think that story-wise, this is fully unique, but presentation-wise, it's very clearly inspired by Meat Sleep, Robert Hiltman, and the I Feel Fantastic video. I'll get more into the similarities with I Feel Fantastic in just a minute, but if you've ever seen Meat Sleep or Robert Hiltman, you'll recognize the inspiration. Anyway, obvious inspiration aside, this series is still great. There's an actual reason for these videos to be analog, as these videos are supposed to be recovered VHS tapes. And, I mean, come on man, this robot is just freaky. Now, as usual, I'm not going to cover the entire series, as I want you to watch this for yourself. I'm going to cover up to tape 20, as this is what I would consider to be Season 1 of the series. Without further ado, let's get into the first upload. The first upload is, of course, the first tape found. From now on, I'll just call these tape number whatever, since that's a lot less of a mouthful. Tape number 1 is the one I showed you earlier, and it doesn't really tell us much. Really, we're just shown this creepy-ass animatronic, which gives off I Feel Fantastic vibes. If you somehow aren't familiar, I Feel Fantastic is a classic creepy video which shows off a robot named Tara the Android. The actual video itself is innocent, despite being creepy as hell, though there was an urban legend going around that it was made by a serial killer. Pontiac Robotics archive seems to be taking some inspiration from that old legend, as I do believe this robot might actually be alive. We get a close-up of the robot's eyes in this video, and they look human. Moving on from tape number 1, tape number 2 gives us a bit more context. We learn that the robot is named Meg, and that she was made for dentistry. However, the masked man performing dentistry on her seems a bit creepy. I don't know, I think this guy might not have a license. Not much of note here though, so let's move on to tape number 3. This one is interesting, because we start off with a distorted news report, which is only barely understandable. The audio is in reverse, but the report says something along the lines of, "Last night a robbery occurred at a robotics convention center. A robber broke in and stole an interactive android from a Utopia orthodontist office space. There's been questioning by the police. The local police are on high alert for evidence." We're then shown Meg while a sick-ass guitar riff plays. Not much else happens, though I do want to once again point out the eyes. They really seem human, don't they? Tape number 4 shows Meg's birthday, where she strangely is moving her mouth on her own. Also, she gets lit on fire at the end. Tape number 5 is short, and it really just shows that Meg survived being lit on fire, though she looks far more terrifying now. Also, she falls down the stairs. Man, this fucking robot cannot catch a break. I'm kinda starting to feel sorry for her, honestly. She doesn't really deserve this. Tape number 6 shows Meg being punished, presumably by the dentist from the second tape. I assume it's because of how she's been acting in the last few tapes, but we don't really know for sure. We do, however, get more evidence that Meg might be more than a robot. Around 1 minute and 20 seconds in, Meg's leg is twisted, and we can hear bones breaking. Tape number 7 is one that I think speaks for itself. Take a look. This is pretty much the entire video. Meg sitting in a field, with her hair missing. Tape number 8 shows Meg sitting at a piano, and she eventually falls over, breaking her face in half. Tape number 9 shows Meg being brutally destroyed. We cut to a shot of a man outside, as we hear that one screaming woman stock sound effects. We cut to another news report with reversed audio, which says, "House set ablaze. Woman found inside burned alive. Homeowner missing. No evidence found about homeowner's whereabouts." We then cut back to Meg, as she's given a new face. Tape number 10 has Meg singing about a slaver and a robber, as she is left outside in the rain. Tape number 11 shows the aftermath of Meg being left in the rain, which is, predictably, her destruction. We hear Meg say, "This is your fault, Sylvester," who we'll learn more about later. The next tape is interesting because it's not tape number 12. This next video is titled, Utopia Orthodontics Commercial. There's an uncanny robot talking to us in this commercial who bears a striking resemblance to Meg. Remember in tape number 3, when we heard that an android from Utopia Orthodontics was stolen? We could gather that the android was Meg, but I think this might be what Meg originally looked like. If that's the case, Sylvester really did a number on her. Tape number 12 is next. It shows Sylvester walking and saying, "You won't be happy," repeatedly. "You," of course, is Meg, confirmed by her body laying on the floor. Tape 13 shows more footage of Sylvester abusing Meg. Though she's finally had enough, she jumps at him, and we later see the masked dentist from tape number 2, who is likely Sylvester, standing at a door, trying to get inside. Tape number 14 shows that Sylvester overpowered Meg yet again, as she's looking even worse. This tape is similar to tape number 2, as it's more dentist footage, and we can see what sounds like flesh as Sylvester touches Meg's face. Meg's teeth also seem far too human, though at this point, it's undeniable that she's more than a robot. At the end of the video, reversed audio can be heard, which says, "Keep fixing her." In tape number 15, we see Meg in the woods as a voice, presumably Sylvester, sings Daisy Bell. We periodically cut to another news reports, though this one is far more understandable. I'll get to that in a moment, so for now, let's focus on the rest of the video. Meg is set on fire again, and the video ends with Sylvester's mask. As for the news reports, it finally gives us an explanation for what exactly is going on here. The news report says, "Wife torches house after finding out her husband was having an affair with a co-worker at a local orthodontist center. The daughter was saved by the husband, and they both made it out alive. His wife's fate was less pleasant. Megan's dead body was found, and police speculate she was unable to open the window to escape. Sylvester suffered many deformations at the face and hands." This confirms all of my suspicions up to this point. Meg is more than a robot. She was a real person. Sylvester and Megan were married, and Sylvester cheated on his wife with a co-worker at Utopia Orthodontics. Megan set the house on fire as revenge, killing herself, though Sylvester managed to survive, alongside his daughter. This explains the mask and gloves Sylvester wears, alongside a glitch in the orthodontics commercial video. We don't know exactly how yet, but Megan seems to have possessed this Meg robot, who Sylvester now abuses as a form of revenge against her. There's only a couple more tapes left, and I'm going to go through them relatively quickly. Tape number 16 shows a child talking about the Meg robot made by the Pontiac Robotics company. The child is, of course, Megan and Sylvester's daughter, who we find out is named Sarah. At the very end of the video, we can see some animatronic animals, who are likely from some sort of Chuck E. Cheese-esque restaurant. Tape number 17 is more footage of Sarah, this time walking around her house in the dark. She stumbles across Meg standing outside, and the video ends with Sarah's flashlight breaking and something making a sound. Honestly, I don't really know what this one's about. Tape number 18 shows Sylvester working on the Meg animatronic as Sarah secretly records him. Eventually Sylvester notices, and Sarah runs away. Tape number 19 shows Meg, now mutilated, as Sylvester whispers, "Why did you fix her?" Tape number 20 is the final tape I'll be talking about, and it's a long one. It's nearly 11 minutes of Meg being lit on fire, eventually being reduced to nothing more than ashes. At one point, we do cut to some house footage, though I'm not entirely sure what it means. As Meg burns, Sylvester walks away, bringing Pontiac Robotics Archive, Season 1, to a close. Alright, so what exactly was that all about? Well, I think this is a story about abuse. Sylvester is likely an abusive husband, alongside an abusive father, going off of tape 18, and that's likely part of why Megan set their house on fire. Somehow, Megan was turned into the Meg android, who Sylvester now abuses constantly. And yet, he keeps fixing her. Meg's been abused to the point where she's almost unrecognizable. And yet, maybe, just maybe, Sylvester still has some sort of love for her. Of course, that doesn't change that Sylvester is an evil piece of shit, and hopefully, in Season 2, he's the one that gets them on fire. Now, as far as I'm aware, Season 2 is finished, alongside the entire Meg storyline, but I haven't watched it yet. I'll get to watching it eventually, hell, maybe I'll even make a video about it, but for now, I'm gonna end things off here. Pontiac Robotics Archive is a great series, and I hope it receives more recognition, as I truly believe it's one of the most unique analog horror series to come out in a while. Check it out, should you have the time. Alright, I'm gonna keep this one short. A couple months ago, on February 4th, 2025, this post was made to r/deep into YouTube. If you don't know already, Deep into YouTube is a subreddit for posting obscure, usually somewhat weird or creepy YouTube channels, and I use it to find channels for the series all the time. Now, I'm sure you see the title of the post, and yeah, obviously that title is what made me investigate this, but I'm not sure if I believe this is a serial killer's YouTube channel. I've taken it upon myself to investigate this entire channel, and I think it's most likely just some weird Japanese art project. How do I know it's Japanese? Honestly, kind of just a gut feeling. I know, that's not something you should go off of with a case like this, but the architecture in a couple of these videos does look Japanese to me, which several comments in the Reddit thread agree with. The issue is, though, I don't know what the purpose behind these videos is. They're, for the most part, all videos of this guy finding body parts in sealed plastic bags, and they're always near bodies of water. Now, these body parts are pretty clearly fake. That's not really in question at all. But what is in question is why these videos even exist. There's two videos that are a bit different from the rest, though they are both just a clip from what I assume to be anyway, a music video or an anime. These two videos point to Blue Water being either an art project or a failed ARG, but I still can't figure out why these videos exist. I'm really just stumped here. Honestly, I really debated whether or not to include this channel, since it is most likely just a failed ARG. But I don't know, I can't shake the feeling that maybe there's something deeper here. There's really no signs of this being an ARG, aside from it just, being fake, which is why I can't confidently say it is an ARG. Whatever this channel is, it does concern me that, for the most part, these videos are marked as made for kids. Even if these videos are fake, even if this is just a failed ARG, it's still one implying that the uploader is a serial killer, and I don't think that's something kids should be able to just stumble upon. We'll likely never know for sure just what Blue Water was. It could be an art project, it could be a failed ARG, or maybe, just maybe, it's something a whole lot darker. Something darker than we could have possibly anticipated. I want to end this video off by talking about something a bit lighter. So, this is an interesting case, because this is a user suggestion, and a channel I already wanted to talk about. I was planning on talking about Haruto Ito later in this series, but since I got this comment on the last episode, I figured I'd talk about them now. Anyway, this is a channel I've known about for a couple years now. I don't remember how exactly I found Haruto Ito, but I remember watching a few videos and not really thinking anything of them. It wasn't until last year, around when I started this series, that the video Hell is Cold appeared in my recommended. I'm not really going to go over this video since you should seriously go watch it for yourself, but this is a fantastic short film. It's got a great atmosphere and I absolutely love the art style. I'll put a link to the video in the description for those of you interested. Now, the reason I'm ignoring the aforementioned video, despite how great it is because I want to focus on Haruto Ito's other work. I'm going to start with their oldest videos, since I want you guys to see the shift in their content the same way I did. The first video on their channel is titled something like Anger of Numbers, and features this pale figure staring at the camera. There's nothing really more to this video, and while the pale figure is kind of creepy, I don't really see any point to this video. This continues with the next video, titled Shine, though this is where we can start to see more of Haruto's style. The video is entirely in Japanese, which I don't speak. I had to pull out Google Translate, so please forgive any inaccurate translations here. If any of you know Japanese, please feel free to correct me in the comments, as I'd love to know what's actually being said here. The video shows an upside down no mask saying something like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. You will be safe. I promise." To a shadowy figure. The figure responds with, "Away from the sun," which I assume is probably a mistranslation. The no mask then crushes the shadowy figure and says something like, "We don't talk about unspeakable behavior," as the video cuts to an old Japanese shampoo commercial. Despite this being the second video on Haruto Ito's channel, we can already see a lot of stuff that still remains part of their style to this day. The Japanese theming, the purposefully low quality visuals, and the music being reminiscent of old Adult Swim bumpers are all things Haruto still uses to this day. However, the presentation is completely different. We'll talk more about this later, but Haruto's older videos are much closer to an ARG in presentation, while their newer videos seem to be more of just whatever they feel like making. The next three videos all have the same title, that of just a singular dot, with the first of these three videos featuring the pale figure again. The text in this one reads, "I remember that day vividly. The day he changed me. I thought about it myself. He didn't like it. He burned me. Pain. That's all I felt. I still remember his name. Shining." Now, going off of the last video, the pale figure is talking about the no mask. Who or what the no mask represents is unclear, but maybe the next video will help us figure that out. Okay, or it's aquarium footage. See, this is what I mean by Haruto Ito kinda just uploads whatever they want, as this video has no relevance to what I thought was an overarching story. The next video goes back to being more story focused, confirming that the no mask is the one that deformed the pale figure. They seem to have a teacher-student relationship, given that the no mask calls the pale figure his disciple, and the pale figure claims the mask harmed all his disciples. Alright, I'm gonna start going through these videos quickly now, since while the story does pick up here, it is also dropped pretty quickly. The next video shows the pale figure saying some stuff about how the no mask found him, and that his life is almost over, though he also says the mask's search is pointless, implying that the figure soon will take his own life. After this is a video titled Happiness, where a blue face named Atarashi Sho explains that despite how hard life can be sometimes, it's still worth living, as we have people who love us. This video doesn't correlate at all to the larger story Haruto was telling, but I think it fits pretty well with the kind of stuff they make nowadays. This is also the point where Haruto Ito kind of dropped the story they were telling and started making more weird, abstract stuff, which finally brings me to the videos I actually want to talk about. These more abstract videos remind me a lot of Adult Swim, as they have a similar, abstract, somewhat creepy, and chill vibe. Some of these videos are similar to the last one I talked about, where they're more about mental health and happiness, but some, like this one titled Hockey Bear, are just weird. It just shows a bear wearing a hockey mask and a Ushenka standing in some sort of liminal space before cutting to Vladimir Putin. Now, I do want to say that there were some videos in the older, more story-focused style, though they don't really seem to have a story to tell. Honestly, these videos are hard to talk about since you kind of need to experience them for yourself. The vibe these videos have is hard to get across through words, and these videos are mostly just vibes. Now, as much as I like Haruto Ito's older videos, their newer videos are even better. I'm not going to spend much time on these since, again, I want you to watch these yourself, but I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't talk about these at all. As with the older videos, a lot of Haruto Ito's newer videos are weird little animations. One of my favorites is This Bear Ain't No Poser, which just shows a bear riding around on a skateboard. There's legitimately nothing weird or creepy about it, it's just a fun animation. The Adult Swim influence is even more apparent in the newer videos, as a couple of them are straight up just fan-made Adult Swim bumps. If it wasn't obvious, I'm a fan of the pseudo-Adult Swim aesthetic, and it's one I'm trying to incorporate a bit more into my videos, though not to this extent. Haruto Ito has also made some longer videos, like the aforementioned Hell is Cold, but I want to talk about some of their other works. Hinata Gets Scammed is one I'll go over relatively quickly, since it's just an absurdist comedy animation. It reminds me a lot of something like Smiling Friends, and if you're a fan of that kind of comedy, you should definitely check this video out. On the complete opposite ends, there's a conversation between two reapers. Again, I'm not going to say much about it, but this is an absolutely beautiful video about how death isn't something to be feared, but something to be embraced. I highly recommend watching this one for yourself. I cannot do it justice here. Now, my favorite of Haruto Ito's videos isn't a longer one, but another short one. It's called Every Day, and I think the best way for me to show you why I like it so much is just to show it to you. I love this video. The strange visuals complement the music perfectly, and the style, while being reminiscent of Adult Swim bumpers or old Newgrounds animations, is still unique. I won't lie and say this video is creepy. Hell, I'd hardly even call it weird. But goddammit, I just like it too much to not show it to you. I know Haruto Ito is a bit different than the channels I normally talk about, but sometimes I just want to talk about shit I like. Haruto Ito is definitely not a channel you're all gonna like as much as me, but I hope you can all appreciate their art on some level. If you like my videos, please check Haruto Ito out. They've inspired me to change some things about my channel's visual aesthetic, which I hope to start incorporating soon. Plus, I also just really like their videos. Haruto Ito may not make the creepiest or the weirdest videos on YouTube, but they make some damn cool art, and that's not something that should be ignored. But with that, that's going to be the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this look at some channels more on the weird end, and I hope you've been enjoying this series. Once again, if you have any channels you'd like me to talk about, please let me know in the comments. I can't guarantee I'll be able to talk about every single suggestion that comes my way, but I'm going to try my hardest to talk about as many as possible. Just know that I do read every single one of your comments, and I do look at every single one of your suggestions. I've gotten some really good ones that I fully intend on talking about at some point, so don't worry, I'm putting them to good use. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there, and good night.